I gotta cross the street again! Christopher Newport University is full of great examples of pedestrian-oriented design. The most heavily trafficked parts of campus are completely closed to cars, with a few glaring exceptions. The reality is, though, there are a few spots on campus they can't feasibly close to car traffic. But that doesn't mean they can't coexist in a safe manner. Let's take a look at Avenue of the Arts as an example of this. Pretentious name aside, this is a shockingly well-designed street. It's one of the few examples in the area that successfully combines pedestrian and car traffic, and in a safe manner. However, instead of me just barking my opinion at you about how great this street is, let's compare it against this article about safe and unsafe street design from AARP. Yes, the company that sells your grandmother a smartphone and dental insurance has pretty good literature about street design. Let's go through the 6 criteria one by one that they say makes a street safer by design. First up is the design speed of the street. It's one thing to have a theoretical speed limit that you put in place with a sign, but it's a whole other thing to have a bunch of visual cues that make the driver adhere to the speed limit that you set in place. And by God, this street has some great visual cues. The first thing you'll notice is that cars don't drive on asphalt on the street. They drive on bricks. Yeah, it looks nice and it's cohesive with the paths on campus, but the real benefit comes with how it makes drivers feel when they're passing through here. The bricks you see here create a lot of tire noise and vibration inside of the car, signaling the driver that they need to drive slower than they usually do on a smooth surface. It naturally lowers the speed they're traveling at, and that's something a speed limit sign alone just can't do. Even better is the fact that the sidewalk and the street are made out of the same material. From the perspective of the drivers, it feels like there's a mixing of both areas, like a pedestrian could pop out onto the street at any time. For the pedestrians, it makes them feel more comfortable walking on the street for the same reason. Not to mention there's this median with plants, making the space feel just a little bit tighter for cars passing through. Next up is how wide the travel lanes are. The article plainly says that narrow travel lanes naturally slow traffic. When there's more space in a lane for a car to bob back and forth, it makes them feel more comfortable going faster. Unfortunately, this is where Avenue of the Arts stumbles. Just because I really felt like citing my sources today, I took a look at the Virginia Department of Transportation's Highway Design Standards Manual. These standards have been in place for decades and are used all over Virginia. Keep in mind that on an interstate, cars are flying by at over 70 miles per hour. So according to these guidelines, a street must maintain at least 12 feet of width for each travel lane. Luckily, I brought my measuring apparatus with me so we can measure how wide these lanes are. Let's take a look. Measured to be about 13.5 feet. Last time I checked, this isn't a highway. There's no reason for the lanes to be this wide. On a much more positive note, let's take a look at the crosswalk situation in the street. The article has 2 separate criteria for crosswalks that I'm going to combine together for the sake of this video. Basically, crosswalks need to be signalized, have curb extensions, and, for extra points, have mid-block crossings to break up long points between intersections. What Avenue of the Arts lacks in signalization and extensions, it more than makes up for in the amount of places pedestrians can cross. First up is the library circle. It's this big mixed-use space you see right behind me. Pedestrians cross here all the time, and it's encouraged. Next, if you're not comfortable crossing just anywhere in the street, there's this crosswalk right here, right before the roundabout. There's also one here and here. Finally, I saved the best for last. This whole middle section right here is one giant crosswalk. There's so much space for pedestrians to cross, it's incredible. Not to mention, there's this cute little concrete inlay of our school's logo. 2 more criteria. While this isn't the same part of the street I was talking about before, it's still considered Avenue of the Arts, so I'm gonna have to ding it for this one. The article says that eliminating right turn slip lanes in favor of right angle corners produces slower, safer turns and shorter crossing distances for pedestrians. This roundabout right here, which is very safe for pedestrians because of how attentive drivers have to be when they're passing through, has a slip lane that kind of negates some of the benefits. This is a little confusing to me. There's already a roundabout here, which smooths out the angle that a right-turning car would need to abide by. But then they went ahead and added this slip lane just to make it even easier. This slip lane right here increases the speed that drivers feel comfortable traveling at, and decreases the amount of attention they're paying while driving just because they don't have to yield to other traffic while they're turning right. It just wasn't a good design decision for a place like this where there's lots of pedestrian and vehicle traffic combined. The last point of the article has to do with the distance between intersections. The article says that decreasing the distance between intersections helps reduce travel speeds. Makes sense. I even mentioned it in the first video I made in this series about Warwick Boulevard. However, I'm not yet a professional, so I don't know what the ideal length between intersections should be. So I looked it up. According to the Urban Form Standard, blocks should have sides greater than 200 feet and less than 600 feet. And that 80% of good urban form is embedded in this one rule. Now, I'm not going to get out my measuring apparatus to tell you the length between the intersections on the street, but Google Earth does tell me that it's about 215 feet between where I am now and the roundabout we just talked about. If 80% of what makes a street good for pedestrians is rested in this one criteria, we're doing pretty well. This street is great. It's not perfect, but it serves as a wonderful model of how to synergize pedestrian and car traffic to make both of them safer. If there's a street that you just can't feasibly remove cars from, make it like this. We need more places like this, not just around here, but everywhere. It's too good of an idea not to put it as many places as possible. Thank you for watching another installment of Living CNU. I have a few more episodes coming up, so stick around if you'd like to see more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.